Hey, it's Dave here, and I wanted to talk to you today about what we're doing here in terms of what is a JavaScript website. Like, why have we done what we've done so far? And the reason being is because it's a little confusing because I'm using a lot of different things, and our website has a lot of different moving parts. For example, we have our front end, which has HTML, which is translated from Jade, and it's being served to you from a server that's using Node, which is using a library called Express, and the front end is using a library called Angular. So I don't expect you to know what any of that means, but what I can do is show you what files each thing is. And if you look at what files are what, you'll know what files are the front end and what files are the back end. So let's take another look here, shall we? So this is the folder that we downloaded from GitHub. It was a zip file. We unzipped it. It became this folder. This contains all of our code. So the back end is all the files that are outside of this public folder right in the middle here. So let's take a look at what these are in Sublime. The first file, app.js, I've already talked about. This contains our routes, like the links on the page, where the links go, what pages to serve up for those links. Package.json has a list of dependencies. Remember, I talked about a manifest of the things that the program relies on. And lastly, the README file, which is actually for GitHub. You don't really need this file for your app. So let's see here. The first folder on the bottom here is views. Now this is where we keep our Jade files. The Jade files are the different pages on the site. So remember, we have partial one, which is the bio. Then we have the blog. Then the projects page. We also have the index page, which has that div, which is where we put those inner pages. Remember, we don't repeat this code anywhere. We have these three links: days bio, days blog, days projects, and they show up on the website, but we don't have to rewrite that on these inner pages because these are just shoved into the middle of this index.jade. And also layout.jade, which is actually before index. So you have at the top of index extends layout, which means it's really extending this file. This file basically says HTML, here's the head content, here's the body content, and index is the body content. And then within that is this div ng view, which lets us put inside these pages. So it's like a page within a page within a page. That's how these views are organized. The reason they're so nested like that is because we don't want to rewrite code, right? We don't want to have any code duplication. So this lets us do that. Next up, we have routes. Routes, it doesn't have to be called that actually. We can name it whatever we want. Also, these two file names are also irrelevant, index and API. But basically, these are like the backend functions. Like this function exports.index, all it does is renders the index page back to the client. This function finds the partial that we chose. Remember, we talked about this function already. It finds the Jade file that we need and it renders it back to the client. API.js, all this function does is return name value. All it does is say a response that send back this data, and in the data I say the name Dave. And let's see. The reason this is here is because it's demonstrating the back end giving information to the front end. So this is the web server is saying pass the variable that whose value is Dave to the front end, and then in the front end, if you look under public JS controllers, it says HTTP get means get the name that's on the server, and upon success, if you successfully get a value back from the server, then set the name variable on the page to be whatever came back from the server. So if it failed, for example, if the server went down, the name variable on the page would be error. So I'm not sure how to demonstrate that actually, because I can't just shut off the server, because if I refresh the page while the server's down, we won't even get the page. So I'll make another demonstration of that, but this is the JavaScript on the front end. So hopefully this clears things up a little bit. Also, we have node modules, and we didn't touch this folder at all. This is actually created when we run that command. Remember that command npm install? I'll run it again actually. I'm going to delete this whole entire folder. Remember, these are the libraries that were in this manifest. See, if I try to run the server now, if I go node app.js, it can't find Express. That's like the first dependency. So that's a dead giveaway that I forgot to run npm install. So let's run that again. It'll download those dependencies and put it in. See, just created that folder, node modules. That's where those go. So to recap, app.js is the main server file. This contains Express code, ExpressJS. Views are views, the Jade files. Routes is some backend code. Public, everything in public gets sent to the web browser. And lastly, node modules is the backend manifest dependencies. So we're using Jade and Express. Jade is the compiler for those Jade files, and Express is the framework that lets us make these routes in our main app.js file. Without Express, we wouldn't be able to do this. We'd have to code up our own special web server basically, but Express is like a ready-made web server for Node. So that's what we're using, and I'll go more in depth in the future. Thanks for watching.